Hello, Stickheads. It's another episode. Very excited to talk about a show I had not known about until our guest, James Hamilton, brought him up. It's called Psychoville, a really dark comedy from the BBC. I've liked a lot of the stuff like Garth Marenghi's Dark Place and Mighty Boosh, and we talk about some of those. This is in that wheelhouse. It's in that kind of field, but I think way darker. I was really surprised by it, especially because James has that side of his humor, but he's also like a real fun, jovial dude. So kind of like Psychoville. I think James is a complex guy. He's one of my favorite writers out here in LA. He's worked on so many cool projects. I love getting coffee or breakfast with him and just kind of talking about story and sharing industry woes. We touch on that a little bit at the beginning of this episode. Hopefully not so much that we get in trouble with any of our bosses, but I think it's a hopefully cathartic conversation. Would love to know how much you guys want to hear more inside baseball stuff like that, or should we be focusing more on just storytelling and the media we love? You can let us know stories that stick pod@gmail.com, but especially on our Patreon, where all of our supporters get to vote on the direction we're going on our bonus episodes. You get access to bonus episodes like I just mentioned, ad-free episodes early. It's a great place, including our Discord, where it would be the best place to give us feedback on what do you want to hear more on the show. Rambling way, and then I love James. I love having him on. He's lovely. And I hope you enjoy this episode. Also, go check out Psychoville. It's not illegal to type into Google ways to watch Psychoville on a VPN. You'll figure it out. It's a really cool watch, especially if you love the actors. By the way, we mentioned a little bit, I knew some of these casts from Taskmaster, a show I absolutely adore. Maybe you're sick of having friends recommend Taskmaster. That's all on YouTube. There's 20 series of it. It's the best panel game show, if you want to call it like that, I've ever seen. It's really good at making you like these contestants that you might not know. Most of the British celebrities I'm not familiar with. Reece, Shearsmith, who is one of the creators of Psychovilles on a recent season. And it really makes you love these cast members and see them break their heads against weird challenges from Greg Davies and Alex Horne. We're not talking about Taskmaster, but I just want to tell everyone about it whenever I can. It really has been a delight in the last few years. Psychoville is also great. Enjoy this episode. Welcome once again to Stories That Stick, a podcast where I have creatives and friends to come on and talk about stories and narratives and media that they loved, that has motivated, inspired the path they are on as storytellers. I am joined by the lovely, delightful James Hamilton, someone I've gotten very lucky to meet in my time out here in Los Angeles in the animation scene. James, welcome to the show.
Thank you. And these are great adjectives to be introduced by. I like this. Yeah. It's like, this is like epitaph stuff. It's what I would want in my guest. It's like, he was really lovely. Like, he's a lovely guy. Yes.
I don't throw it out for anyone.
Very happy. No,
I'm not giving lovelies out to everyone, James. You're special.
Quite right.
I can't even remember. I think you and I crossed paths originally just mutual colleagues. I guess you worked on Unikitty with me. I feel like I knew you before then, but I can't remember how.
Yeah, so I don't think we actually worked together on it. We were obviously working on it probably around the same
Ships
time.
in the night.
I was freelancing in the UK at the time, and so I was just kind of in my little bubble writing a script for Ed and Lynn, the showrunners of that, and being like, cool, hope it's good, hope
Amazing
you like
people.
it.
By the way, shout out Ed's. Ed's was one of our first episodes, came on for Stories That Stick to talk about Independence Day.
Amazing.
I inspired him, which makes a lot of
Good
sense.
choice.
Yeah, great one for it. That's the start. But you've written so many more interesting things than Unikitty, James.
Don't knock Unikitty. I mean, I only did a couple of episodes of it, but I don't know. I was thinking about it the other day when I was putting together a pitch for something else. I'm like, it's a fun show. I always even though I only did a couple of episodes of it, it was really solid.
I think we don't have to get too into the weeds on Unikitty, but I think it's enough time has passed to share that I think the crew was really talented. I think Lynn and Ed are amazing showrunners and directors. And that was maybe one where Warner Brothers was just in a kinks about what to do with it.
Yes. Not like they are now, of course.
Warner Brothers, sure. They're in the middle of a merger.
Have their stuff together always, and everyone does.
We shouldn't disparage
knows what they want.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I think we could treat this as a sort of industry universal that people often don't quite know what they want on
Yes.
something and
Yes.
kind of flip flop. So in a way, yeah, not Warner Brothers specific. It's a tale as old as time.
Absolutely. We're selling a
Um,
toy. This is a spin-off of another movie. There's executives that are in on their own minds about what the show can be. I think we pulled off some good episodes regardless.
Yeah, in my little bubble, I had a lovely time writing on it. But so otherwise, I moved to Los Angeles to do Dogs in Space for Netflix,
Very
and
charming
then
show.
Jentry Chau versus the Underworld. Thank you. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
I'm really fond of Dogs in Space. It came together really well. Um, and then Gentry Chau on Netflix,
That's
and
still on Netflix, by the way, right? Because Netflix has
yeah,
been
both
pulling
these
some
things.
stuff.
Yes, I mean it was. I mean, as far as I'm aware, these are both still on,
I didn't
still
mean to
on
jinx.
Netflix.
I just found out recently that Troll Hunters is getting pulled and no one knows where it's going.
Is it? Oh
They're like,
no!
okay, cool, Netflix. All right, good. F us, I guess.
Is that because is this a rights thing?
I'm guessing. I mean, is this interesting for the listener to get in industry politics? I know that
Yes,
yes, immediately yes. Here's what I
definitive.
understood of the because the first show I was on was Troll Hunters, which had this crazy like 52 episodes out of the gate, and DreamWorks got like something crazy like 1,600 hours ordered by Netflix because this was over a decade ago, and like we just need content, please,
Yes,
animation content.
grist to the mill.
We're not overflowing yet, and so they just ordered a bulk amount of TV, and there was something weird where like it seemed like Netflix was paying for TV production that they weren't going to own, or at least not
Hmm.
fully own. So DreamWorks, maybe Universal still has some
Okay, so
rights.
hopefully it's going to end up somewhere.
Peacock,
Like
everyone's got
I think,
Peacock.
yeah, of course. But this is why it matters, right? Because it's like if you do care about that show, and a lot of people do care about Troll Hunters, it's like okay, well then you want to know where it's going to hopefully land, or if it's going to hopefully land somewhere. And as far as Dogs in Space and Gentry Chau versus the Underworld are concerned, I presume they are both safe because they are Netflix originals. So, like
That's probably
they,
better. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, they will go. They will die when Netflix does, whenever that may be.
With rest in peace, God, may they live forever. May they
May Netflix
empire.
never die.
May the sun never set on the Netflix empire. Gosh, please buy Warner Brothers and not Skydance. Please don't.
Otherwise, yes, these two shows of my oeuvre will be lost to the ages.
Is there physical media for either?
No, there isn't.
Come on. Yeah,
I know. Someone should do some. I was going to say someone should do some bootlegs. I'm not going to condone piracy.
No, but I think when your
if
show gets
someone
pulled,
were to, and then DM me, yeah. So if it were to get pulled, I remember a few years ago there was a crisis about shows getting pulled, and I think people were talking about, hey, bootleg stuff.
yeah, there was a ton of Cartoon Network stuff. I think like the Owen Dennis or Dennis
Yes,
Owen, like
was very openly like bootleg Infinity Train. Otherwise, you won't get to see it. And
absolutely
fair enough. Yeah.
No, and they did the same thing to Star Trek Prodigy, one of my other shows. They just pulled it for tax reasons, and then it went over to Netflix. But for a while, it's like, cool, can't see a show I worked
Yeah,
on.
Netflix has it now, right? Yeah, but
Yes, for some amount of time. I don't. No, actually, no. I'm sorry, it's gone now. I think it's gone.
It's
I think
gone
it's
again?
actually not streamable right now. Yeah,
it's just been nominated for like an Emmy, at least one Emmy.
doesn't matter. They'll take
I
the
know,
Emmy.
I know. See, I mean, I only know this because I mean, you'll take the Emmy, and then you just make a point. I I know this because Gentry's also been nominated for Emmys, which is the nice recent
Congratulations, by
news.
the way.
Thank you. Yeah. So we're going up against your former show.
It's fine. I
Um,
didn't work on that season, so go for it.
Yeah,
dude.
exactly.
Kick our
So
butt.
fuck it.
It's
I hope they
fine.
lose. Yeah. I'm very intentionally not watching any of the other things that are nominated for the writing because I don't want to have an opinion
I was
on
gonna say I don't want to
whether
fall
or
in
not
love with this. Yeah.
I don't want to fall in love with them and then be like, oh no, like, and then when we win, be disappointed is why.
You do the thing
No,
where you
it's
take
like,
the award and you're like, yes, but also listen, these other ones should have
yes,
won.
but you know who should have won this? Pixar. Which, to be fair,
They got enough.
that sort of. And that's my. You know what? Yeah, you're right.
All right, we got it.
Yes, we get into it, but I think it's a good point to make sure is in there. Don't cut this from the edit. It's like Pixar.
No, this is all in.
You have, if anything, too many Emmys. However many you have.
I got like one and some nominations. I'm hoping you get. Would this be your first? If Jentry, I'm rooting for you, dude. Let's be equal.
Thank you. Yeah.
Though someone I worked with recently was like, well, a daytime Emmy is not like a primetime Emmy. It's like, what? Come on, man. Like, it's not my fault that I can't beat The Simpsons. Like, what do you want me to
do? Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where, like, because, it's for the children's and family Emmys, right? It's like you have to explain the distinction to so many people.
I know.
Because they just hear, like, and well, you sort of do and you don't. Because on the one hand, I genuinely think it doesn't matter. But then also, I had someone ask me at one point, "Oh, will we be able to watch it?" I'm like, no. Of course you won't. Let me explain why. So yeah, all silly, but
we'll see. I'm rooting for you.
Excuse to go to New York and wear a suit.
Yeah, it'd be nice if my other coworkers on Star Trek Prodigy also won, but I'm rooting for you too, dude.
Yeah, they could win something else. That's fine. I'm sure it's nominated for other things.
James, I think I interrupted you because I started talking. Let's complain about the Emmy organization that we really love and hope that we all win.
Yes, any Emmy voters are listening before, like, 2nd of March.
No one in the industry is listening to this. This is not like The Town or whatever.
You don't know. This might be where you can't know that for sure. But anyway, yes, you were saying.
Well, just tell us a little bit about like how you first got your foot in the door, because you're starting not from America. If your accent's not given away, you're from the UK. Was it Gumball working on that? You're kind of way in.
Yeah, so Gumball was my first animation job. By the way, with the accent, it's like the thing that's starting to worry me is sometimes people hear my accent here. This happened the other day, genuinely, and ask where I'm from. And I'm like, if you can't tell, it makes me worried I'm losing my accent. It's like, and clearly I'm just making it, okay, so clearly it's a me problem rather than you not understanding.
I think it's on Americans not being educated on dialects.
Like, where are you from? I'm like, England.
Obviously.
Obviously. Isn't it? Okay, so yes, so my first animation job was on Gumball, and the way I got into that was before that so when I was at university, I set up a comedy group called Casual Violence,
which we're going to talk about later on this podcast.
Which we will. It's very relevant to what we're here to discuss. And so we used to do the Edinburgh Fringe. We used to like build a new show every year and then kind of take that up to Edinburgh, and that was kind of how I got started as a writer. Like, the rest of my group didn't write stuff, which was nice for me because it meant I got to develop that way. But then we would like workshop the shows together, develop the stuff together. They would put in all the jokes that would get the biggest laughs, and then we'd all perform in it together and take it up to Edinburgh. And
that's a pretty good, from my understanding, like pretty big comedy show in the UK. Like, I've heard of it.
Yeah, Edinburgh is the biggest. It's the biggest in the world. Like, as an arts festival, there's like 3,000-ish shows there a year, and they're all compressed in. Like, it basically takes over the city of Edinburgh for the whole month. You can't go anywhere without being flyered, without like there's
improv everywhere. What am I going to do?
Oh my God, so much. But there's also weird stuff, and that's what's so good about it. Like, there's improv and sketch and character and stand up and theater and dance, but then also just some like whatever fucking weird thing someone's come up with. They've decided they want to take to Edinburgh. Whatever weird idea for a musical that they've had that's just them by themselves, they will take and perform. And any weird little corner or nook in the whole city is suddenly a venue.
And are there scouts kind of for like the studio? I mean, I feel like that's the thing in the LA, New York, Chicago scenes.
Yeah.
There's always like a Lorne Michaels kind of lurking in the darkness going, I choose you.
That's sort of what you hope it will be, yes. And so I think for a lot of people, especially in comedy, that's the big reason to go up there, is that you will get industry attention. And so we kind of did that for years and sort of were progressing through doing that. And that's how I guess, got my foot in the door a little bit, and that's how I got an agent. And through getting through my agent, I then got work on The Amazing World of Gumball, which was such a cool show to work on. And at the time, I loved Cartoon Network as a kid, but in the UK, they just, I knew I obviously wanted to be a TV writer at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't even occur to me that animation would be a path that I could go on.
Were you
And
thinking you'd
writing
go
for
more
kids,
live action at the time? I mean, I guess
well,
you.
yeah, but it's just like you didn't know what kinds of stuff. Like animation didn't even occur to me. And the shows that I really liked, one of which we'll talk about, were shows that did these kind of big, grotesque, weird characters. And like Mighty Boosh was another example of a show that like isn't my favorite personally, but was very popular at the time. And like Garth Marenghi, which I think we both
Love
share a
Dark
love
Place.
for,
We
is
could
like
have
a
talked
huge
about that
thing.
one for sure.
I
Yeah.
know it's very. I mean, I'll come back and talk about Dark
Please.
Place. I'll I just added a like bonus episode that's just an
No,
hour
you're already
monologue
committed
about.
in now. That's contractually binding on the pod.
All right, but so I liked all of that, but then I think a taste for that stuff was sort of going by the really well timed by the time I was sort of making headway as a writer, and so all of that stuff was a big influence on me. And I didn't know I'd be able to write for animation because, especially because Gumball is a kids show. I was writing jokes for adults, but with big, weird, cartoony characters. And what was so nice about Gumball and kind of like finding my way into that was like, okay, right, well, actually, we're not writing jokes for kids. We're just writing good jokes. And if it's a good
Yes.
joke, everyone's going to laugh at it and
And
kids
you're
will
getting
like it
some
and
dark
adults will
stuff in
like it.
there, man, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think so many times where it's like, Darwin's died before, and like all of these, like,
Yeah.
I think that it's not like you're trying to sneak in like dick jokes, but you're just
No,
still
but
working
it's
in
the
stuff
it's the
that'll hit
closest
both.
kids have to South Park, except for South Park, which kids obviously watched anyway. But like,
Yeah.
that always sort of feels the closest to me. It was very South Park, very Simpsons, and so it was a real lesson that I carried forward in all my other animation work. Of like, writing for kids doesn't mean writing for kids. Like I get really annoyed with anyone like any time the sort of implicit note from an executive is that the only jokes kids understand are like falling over and farts.
Yes.
And and the only things
they
adults
think less of kids in that way. I think there's a lot of like, whatever, just
Yeah.
put it on the screen. They'll watch it and clap their hands. Like, no, they can subconsciously tell at least when things are treating them with respect. I think
100%. And I think so, there was Gravity Falls is also like a fantastic
Absolutely.
show that obviously came out, I think a bit later than I was doing this, but I can't remember the exact year that was around. But that's another show that was very elevated. And I think Gumball and that show, even though they're quite different, are two very good examples of like, we are just doing what's funny and we're just telling the story that's right for us to tell.
Totally.
And people will get on board with that. And I think if you do pitch things slightly above where you think kids are, they will come and meet you there. And so that was really nice for me because animation otherwise was such a good fit for me. I love that, obviously growing up on The Simpsons as a lot of us did, just the sheer variety of jokes you can do and the like variety of stories you can do in that way. But I think particularly the variety of jokes, because the different kinds of humor, the way you can sort of stack jokes on top of each other in a way that I don't think you can quite do in live action in the same
Totally.
way.
And while
Is
you
really
got to be
enticing.
careful and not kill your production, I do think just the nature of being able to throw up a quick like backdrop for wherever you need for a joke to go
Yeah.
is, I guess nowadays in live action, be like, well, we'll just throw it on a green screen or in the volume or whatever. It still feels like more achievable to have sort of infinite runway for your episode if you need to.
Yeah. And so you can make stuff really joke dense. And so getting into that and then being lucky enough that Gumball, and I had no idea when I started on it how big a show Gumball was.
Huge.
But that got me a foot in the door in animation because the fact I'd worked on Gumball was a big deal, apparently, to a lot of people. And so that really helped when I started trying to take meetings out here and trying to get my first work out here. And that's what led to me moving to LA just before the pandemic, which we don't have to talk about. But that was
the thing
fun.
that
I'm
happened.
pretty sure it was a fun time. That was.
Were you really
good.
right before? Like, how many months before the pandemic were you like, I got an apartment, I'm settling in?
Yeah, I moved 3 months before the pandemic,
Jesus.
and so thankfully it was like enough time to just about get an apartment and have a non-embarrassing amount of furniture.
Sure, but plans to go out and enjoy the city before a
Yeah,
lockdown.
I got about 2 years into living in LA before I realized I don't know Los Angeles that well.
Dude, I'm still discovering it, man.
Oh,
like,
me too. Yeah,
people
I'm
mention
still,
a
I feel like
town or a district or county. I'm like, I've never heard of that place. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Well, dude, let's talk about our topic. You know, you mentioned like Dark Place was one we thought about talking about.
Mm.
I asked you like, what is a story that resonated with young James?
Yeah.
And you picked one I had not ever heard of before. A British,
It's
yeah,
a deep
very.
cut.
I was curious. Like, you know, it's. I saw it won some awards for best like comedy of the year when it came out. In 2009, a very different time. Uh,
Yes.
Psychoville. I mean, I almost want to throw it to you, but like, I think the way I kind of interpreted as I read through it was, all right, it's a super dark thriller comedy mystery that is
Yes.
also sort of an anthology series in how it is following what, six or seven different characters
Yes.
connected with a mystery thread.
Yes, yes. So this is a show that was created by two guys called Reece Shearsmith and Steve Pemberton, who I think probably for most people will know because I'm pretty sure they've both been on
That's
Taskmaster
how
at
I
this
know them from
point.
Taskmaster. Absolutely. And Reese
I
is
knew it.
like
Okay.
Reese is really like kind of reserved on Taskmaster. Like he's wearing like a trench coat the whole time and he has like one or two freakouts. Nothing on the line of killer mother or evil clown Mr. Jelly. Like nowhere clear.
Yeah, so they, along with Mark Gatiss, who's now famous for doing like he was in Sherlock, and he's doing like a bit part in every Hollywood
I
movie.
saw him in Fantastic Four first steps. He's like, let's meet the family. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really weird that he just pops up in these things all the time, and he's in like the last Mission Impossible as well. I don't know.
Oh,
So
is he
anyway,
really? Yeah.
yeah, but like in a tiny forgettable part. He's a guy. I really
I
like him. He's
think he
great. But
just, speaking from an American, I feel like he looks like what an American would think a stereotypical British man is. Like,
yeah.
kind of tall and very proper and just kind of nails this, like, yeah, I could see if there was an inspector from Britain here. That's exactly what he would look like.
Exactly. Yes, that's right. And so the three of them and a guy called Jeremy Dyson. I'm going to be really quick with like the potted history.
No, this is good. It's helpful to talk about where
They
it came
were
from.
so
Yeah.
they are an example of a group that this is over 10 years before I was doing Edinburgh, became successful through doing the Edinburgh Fringe, got a radio show, and then got a TV sketch show called The League of Gentlemen. And The League of Gentlemen came out in I think the late 90s, early 2000s, and was huge. It was like very popular but like very dark
Sure.
sketch show
The
that was
TV,
like
there's a
very
TV series too,
horror
right? Because I've been
influenced.
meaning to watch that one.
Yes, that is a TV series. Like, so I think there's a movie called The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which I think is based on the comic, right? But like,
Yeah,
very different
very
thing.
different.
So very different. So yes, this is just a TV show. They did 3 seasons of it. And actually, I think they did do a movie weirdly, but apparently terrible, and no
Did
one
you ever
watched it.
see League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, by the way? Did you ever watch
No,
that or read that
no,
comic?
never. No, naturally never.
James,
I've heard
it
it's
should
a cool
be
concept.
it should be so fucking rad that there is the Avengers of like
Yeah.
horror novel characters. Jekyll and Hyde and the Invisible Man and Tom Sawyer or whatever. And it's like the book is what, Alan Moore, so it's got a lot
Yes.
of, it's very cool. That movie is a disaster, but you might want
I
to watch it
heard the
sometime.
movie was really bad. Yeah. So they did 3 seasons of the show called The League of Gentlemen together, and what Shearsmith and Pemberton specifically are more famous for now is after Psychoville, they did an actual anthology series which is called Inside Number Nine,
I've heard
and
that's great.
Inside Number Nine is wonderful, and I would love to talk about it more. Except like I couldn't describe it as a big influence in the same way as Psychoville, just because of time it came out and when I watched it and where I was in my career. But it's a fantastic TV show, and they did 6 or 7, no more than 6, like 7 or 8 seasons of this show. I can't remember exactly. They did a lot of it. Obviously British seasons, so there's 6 episodes each, but
No,
still.
isn't that must be that? But also, I think I read, because I was going to check it out anyway, but I think I saw that like two of the characters from Psychoville, David and his
They
mother,
do
appear.
one Psychoville episode. Yeah, so this is a pure anthology series where the idea is every time it's set in a different number nine, which could be a house, it could be a dressing room,
Oh,
it could be it could be like a sleeper cabin in a train. It can be kind of anything as long as it's a number nine.
Do they ever do
And
a six upside down?
Six Upside Down. I think they do a version. Yes, I'm pretty sure they do. I can't remember specifically.
Sure.
I would recommend Inside Number Nine so much. It is, they're very much standalone, individual stories that are a mixture of like, they'll do some that are more funny, and they'll do some that are like pure horror, and they'll do all kinds of things that are like more character ones, more supernatural ones. It sort of can be anything. There's no connection between them except for the number nine
That
conceit.
makes sense, because what stuck to me, and kind of transition into a little bit more of Psychoville too. And
Yes.
I was really, you talked about it a little bit. I think you were sharing, you were a little bit like, I haven't watched this in a couple of years. I hope this isn't like
Yeah.
distasteful now.
It's sort of the like awkward middle child between the infancy, like with the League of Gentlemen being them when they started out, and Inside Number Nine being the much more kind of like mature, evolved version of what they would go on to do. You can see a lot of the roots of Inside Number Nine
Well, yeah, it's
in
also
Psychoville.
tonally, I think, is interesting that the story's kind of, at least how it felt to me, wildly different in regards to how insane and how wacky they are. Like,
Mm.
I think the story about Joy, played by Dawn French, who was very weird to see her. I've only seen her in The Lady of Vicar, which.
Vicar of Dibley, you mean?
Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
so sorry.
Yeah.
The Lady of Vicar, I guess.
You're gonna get
Yeah.
pulled down. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, embarrassed myself.
British credentials have to. Yeah.
I will never
You
be
couldn't tell I
allowed
was
to
British
visit.
from my accent. Then correcting you on the name of a sitcom from the 90s.
It's a charming show that I've watched, right? Of a
Yes.
small town getting their new vicar, and would you believe it's a woman? But Dawn French is so good in that.
She's amazing. Yeah.
And in this, her story is a woman who it's so dark, has lost a child, and is kind of enough now. I feel like I've seen this, I guess what you'd call psychosis, mental illness of person that sort of says like, this doll is a real child, and I am dedicated
Yes.
to nursing it and raising it.
And she's also working as a midwife, which gives
I
it a
know.
whole extra layer of
Giving people what seems like maybe correct, but she's also very opinionated, right? Like at the beginning, she's talking about like a birthing pool, and she's like, well, that's stupid, and if you do it, you're gonna have to fish out like poop and other remains, so why don't you listen to me? Meanwhile, I'm losing my mind. She is, while it's funny, I think she's kind of the least funny of the stories. It's like a very serious, no, she's going through this, her husband is losing his mind, and then I think we can kind of jump around in the stories and later on for it. It's like maybe the doll is actually coming alive and trying to kill her.
Yes, because there's a plot that evolves, and we should jump back and talk about the setup of this show.
Yes, please, sure.
But she is trying to bring this doll to life. It sort of turns out over the course of the episode,
feeding it blood,
by feeding it blood that she's taking from the hospital that she works at, and then it sort of leads to this question of like, is the doll starting to come alive? Which is so fun, kind of, and it sort of leans into the sort of horror territory.
Oh, so that's just a good like creep show, not even Twilight Zone. I mean, honestly, funny enough, because this podcast used to be about watching Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark. I don't know if that ever made it over to the UK, but
Goosebumps certainly did. If Afraid of the Dark didn't, I missed it because I'm a horror coward.
When I didn't watch it when I was a kid because they went, "Are you afraid of the dark?" I went, "Yes, I am. I will not watch it then."
Yes, and goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you very much for asking.
No further questions.
But this kind of more adult version of like, this is just a 22-minute spooky story. That'll freak you out.
Yeah, so basically with Psychoville, like, League of Gentlemen was a sketch show, but increasingly they were sort of toying with narrative.
Yeah.
And what Psychoville was a show that like starts out with kind of sketch-like characters, but is developing them more than that and tying them together with like a thriller narrative that sort of takes these 6 quite disconnected characters. So you have this Dawn French character who's the midwife who's got this fake baby that she's treating like a real one and trying to bring to life. You have a horrible clown called Mr. Jelly who has got like a hook for a hand, and he's like got this smoker's cough, and he's like very like just unhappy and
kind of also the most sympathetic, I think, out of the entire cast.
So I rewatched it for this show, and it's like really weird to rewatch the show that I loved from 15 years ago. But yeah, he is incredible. I feel very sorry for Mr. Jelly a lot of the time. There's another clown called Mr. Jolly who stole his act, and you find out more about him as the show goes on.
And everyone's confusing Jelly for Jolly. He's clearly
so there's like double bookings. Yeah,
it reminded me a little bit of the Arrested Development, like the Magicians Alliance, where like Jelly is lower down on the rung and getting kind of pushed out by this. And, you don't even see him for a while. He's just like a legend. His car is
Yeah.
nicer, Mr.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
people keep booking Mr. Jolly, thinking they're booking Mr. Jolly, but booking Mr. Jelly and getting annoyed and upset when they book Mr. Jelly. And then Mr. Jelly's upset because Jolly stole his act.
Yeah, and he's like,
So
and
you've
he is
got,
creepy, right? He's like you said, he lost his hand in a surgery. I love this, like, not to. I think you gotta be sensitive
yeah,
towards sort of like limb different people, obviously, but like the Captain Hook thing. I
yeah.
love. I have a prosthetic, and I have a bunch of cool attachments for it, but his are all like messed
Yeah,
up, like a dirty comb.
yeah, he's made his new actor like Mr. Jelly in his 100 hands, and he's just
But
got
it's like
this like
17 or whatever.
medical bag of like, yeah, there's only actually 16 or 17 hands in there, and they're just all kind of quite menacing. And so there's that. There's yeah, this
Was
like
it
mother and
Lomax?
son
Oh
couple,
yeah,
Mrs.
let's get to the
Oscar
mother and
Lomax.
son. I think they're a major part of this. Yeah,
Yeah, I
David.
want to talk about Oscar Lomax as well, but yes. So the mother and son are played by Shearsmith and Pemberton, and they are this
Oh, sorry.
like,
Just to interrupt, say that if this wasn't clear, most of these characters are played by Reece or Steve, Shearsmith or
yeah, they're
Pemberton.
playing like a number of the main characters, each of them. And inside Number Nine, in that show, they're always playing different characters in that show as well. In this show, they're playing maybe three of the main characters each, roughly. I haven't counted, but
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
they're kind of smart enough to be like, well, if we ever have the entire cast together, can we each do one? Well, we're not doing the like we're cutting the camera and then you're only seeing the other one sort of thing. Or
yes, they
I
don't they
wait,
don't
I'm
tend to put
just
them in the same
oh my
space.
god, I'm so dumb, James. Like there was a couple times near the end of the story where I was like, it's kind of weird that David's not in this scene. I'm like, oh, because Pemberton's already playing another guy in this scene. I actually forgot that. I was like, oh,
That
that's
he's Oscar
weird.
Lomax. Yeah.
Yeah, that's narratively strange that they had to. David didn't show up for the reunion. Oh, wow. I actually
Yeah,
completely left
and
that
we
part.
will talk about that narrative strangeness because I mean, I think even as a like early 20s year old watching the ending, I was like, I have notes. I'm not sure if I know what my notes are, but I have them. Now I do know what they are. Characters wise, you also have this mother and son who are like quasi incestuous,
Yes.
and the son is like a sort of like man-childy character who's like very codependent on the mum and vice
She's like
versa.
chewing his sausage for him and then feeding it.
Yeah, and it's just sort of gross and weird and
I think he's the
codependent, and
grossest ones of the two. It's a
he's they're
little.
so disturbing, and
Yeah.
the son is really into serial killers. He's obsessed with serial killers, and then you have Oscar Lomax, who's this old blind guy who lives in like this huge mansion, and like he gets sent someone who is like a community service thing, who's
Yeah.
a young Daniel Kaluuya, which is
Oh,
amazing.
dude, that's crazy. Yeah, I was saying with someone else. I think Daniel Clue is maybe in the U.S. the most famous person in the show.
Yeah, and so he before this had done a show called Skins, which was very popular,
Wait,
but
he's in
then
Skins?
he's in Skins.
Oh, I watched the first few seasons of Skins before I got too sad. I forget him being in that.
So yeah, he was in that, but then yeah, so he was before he got famous, before he was known for Get Out and became incredibly successful. He's in this, and he gets paired up with Oscar Lomax, who is in this like old mansion and is like sort
It's
of
been
living in
stripped
there.
clear. Like he keeps something like, oh, my painting's
Yeah,
up here. Someone clearly already took
people have
it.
stolen them. He calls Daniel Kaluuya's character is called Michael Fry, but he calls him Tea Leaf because that's Cockney slang for thief, and because he's like
Oh,
he's
I thought it was just a
stolen.
weird random euphemism.
Yeah,
I didn't.
I didn't know this, to be fair, like in my 20s at the time, because I hadn't, because Cockney slang is outdated in general. Like I didn't, it's not something you hear a lot necessarily in the modern day. And so I didn't know that, but tea leaf is rhyming slang for thief, and
Oh, okay.
he'd like early on. Lomax is like, "You're a little tea leaf, aren't you?" And it's like it's that. So it's that, and then he just starts calling him Tea Leaf, and so that's his name, but it's not his actual name. But
And
that's all
he's
he
a
gets
little,
called for the
yeah,
rest of the
and
show.
Lomax is also like a little gross, right? He's got like warts and
Yeah, and then he's
there's
got this hidden collection of things that that he keeps referring to that you don't. That right at the end of the first episode, it's played so well that there's this whole scene where like Tea Leaf is sneaks back into the house to figure out what's in this room
What does he
that
call it?
he keeps
Holiest of
locked. His
holies.
Yes, it's holy of holies, and he goes in, and I remember this being so specifically the moment that like made me fall in love with this show the first time I
Mm,
watched it, is when he turns the light on. And what's in this room, in this sort of dilapidated old Gothic mansion, is like bright. It's like clean lighting, and it's
yeah,
all bright, and everything's white, and it's just row after row after row of Beanie Babies.
yeah.
And
The way
I
Sarah
thought
Jessica
that,
Parker has like a dream closet in Sex in the City, this man
yeah,
has for
this
Beanie Babies.
crotchety old man in a dusty old Gothic mansion has a secret, like, vacuum sealed room full of pristine Beanie Babies.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And he's got this collection. And then there's, who am I forgetting?
Those are the
There,
main ones because we kind of skipped over David and the Mom a
oh,
little
there's the
bit.
dwarf. There's the
Oh
dwarves, right?
wow,
So, like,
yeah, the
yeah,
dwarves kind of
yeah.
just that.
It's
Yeah,
a
that's almost like an
weird
outlier
story,
one.
that one. Yeah. So then there's the story about like a pantomime, and you've got these pantomime dwarves, and one of them is in love with the Snow White, and appears to have telekinetic powers. And so so these characters, like, Robert is the name of this particular dwarf, and then you've got
I mean, Reece
yeah,
is playing kind of the
Joy.
caddy. Like, I guess he's playing a
Yeah,
gay
he's playing like the
actor,
pantomime dame, who's like the villain
evil witch. Yeah,
in the evil witch. Yeah, and so basically the six of them. So Robert, Joy, who's Dawn French's character, um, David, who's the son, Mr. Jelly, and Oscar, and if there's somebody else I'm forgetting for the moment, they all receive a letter in the post that says, "I know what you did," in like handwritten letter that says, "I know what you did," and this is the only thing that, as far as we can tell, connects at the beginning
oh
these six
yeah.
different people
Can we talk about that
that
opening
live.
joke, by the way? I think it's like the very first scene, right? You're seeing this very like dark, shadowy, ridden by a candle, the
Yes.
pouring of the wax. And then I think like as the letters are being written, I think the lights kind of come up and you realize he's in the post office, just like and some
Yeah.
woman's like, "Oh, I guess he didn't need this candle anymore," or whatever it is. I that's a great
Yeah,
way to kind of tell
he
you.
forgot his candle because he was
Great
wax
tone.
sealing the letters. Yeah, um, so fucking silly. And so what I love about this is that, like, these six characters all kind of have their own thing going on, and that kind of stays persistent throughout the first season. But they all receive this letter, and it kind of, they all react to it in different ways. But increasingly, you just then got this great hook right from the start that
Yeah,
is
yeah.
time that's promising you so much right at the beginning, of like, okay, these six people are connected in some way, and we are going to, and we want to know who's trying to blackmail them and why, and we're going to find that out over the course of this show. And so it is a comedy thing, but also it's thriller structure, and it was the first
Yeah.
time I'd really seen something that meshed both in a way that isn't that was genuine. There isn't like there is it's still like incredibly silly, and I think at one point I'd love to talk about kind of the variety of like the tones in the jokes, and kind of,
Exactly. That's the part
the
that really
weird
sticks out to
tonal
me.
things that this show does. But the commitment to it being a thriller, and the commitment to sort of, while they're still making jokes about it and they'll do some undercutting and things, they're being sincere with like, this is going to be a thriller, and we're going to play this, we're going to keep you watching, and the cliffhangers at the end of each thing, to see that in a comedy, to see that in like a weird comedy,
And to
was so new
use
to me then.
yeah, and to use sort of maybe an annoying comparison to say like the Avengers, because everyone's shorthand now for like you bring different movies together. I think it is interesting to see in a way.
Pre-Avengers, yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. But just like this is the horror anthology version. It's the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen of Can You Believe
Yes, yes.
Dr. Dorian Gray is on the same team as Dr. Jekyll. But like Joy's story about the baby is played pretty seriously and sad. Meanwhile, like David and his mother are kind of just like a farce for a lot of it, right? Like,
Yeah, they're so strange. And but yeah, at the same time, Joy's story is like, it's got there are jokes in there, and it's
oh
just like the
sure,
jokes are just really like, um I don't know. The jokes are dark, but then also, and I think they do this. They like, there's something about like their particular tone, I think, in this series in particular,
yeah. But if you
where
told
like it's
me
dark but also really broad and silly sometimes,
Sure,
and they'll
yeah,
go
but if you
they'll
had told
go for like easy, low hanging jokes too. Sorry, go on.
Oh no, I'm just saying if you had told me, for example, no, it seems like Stephen Reece wrote all of these, but if you had told me like a different freelance writer wrote each of these, and then Pemberton and Shearsmith almost did like a pass over it or brought them together, I'd believe you because of just the tone being separate in those ways, right? Like,
Yeah.
to their
Like
credit, it's impressive.
there's a joke I wrote down. It was just later on in Joy's storyline where I'm watching it, where like it's like a full horror-y sequence in episode 5, where like this baby that she's this toy baby called Freddie Fruitcake, that she's been trying to like bring to life. I'm gonna, we're gonna do spoilers for
No, yeah, yeah.
for
We
a
assume, by
show
the
from
way,
2009 that isn't readily available in the US. It appears to come to life and attacks her in like a full horror sequence.
it's
And there's
cutting
a bit
through a
where,
chair and sort of a birthing sequence too, which is also
yeah,
kind
which
of
is so
scary. Yeah.
silly, but then also scary. And then, but there's a bit where, like, it goes into this pile of toys. She reaches in, it bites her, and blah blah blah. And she falls back, and she's like, "I think you need some Calpol," which is like this sort of. I don't know if they have Calpol here, but it's like
No.
it's basically like, I don't know what the equivalent is, but like medicine is like kids'
Okay.
medicine. It's like, so her just going like, "I think you need some Calpol" is like such a silly thing to say in that
Oh
moment.
yeah, there
In
was
that
a
very,
couple.
like, horror-y.
There was a couple where I was like, I know that's a killer reference to something in the UK.
There's lots of very specific British references that as I was watching it this time round, I'm like, I mean, I don't even know every single one of the references that they're talking about in there. But then there's a lot of
the
things.
one where like it's so dumb, James. Where like later at the very end, Lomax is like they found out that David did something wrong, and Lomax goes like, "He's the weakest link. Goodbye." Like, but he doesn't he doesn't do the voice, and it's not a like eye roll.
He always
like,
was the weakest link. Goodbye.
Yeah. Like he just it's continuous. Yeah. Like it's so funny to catch you off guard at what he's saying.
Stupid. Yeah. And so there's such a weird tonal thing going on in this show where like they're committing to like the horror, and they're committing to the thriller elements, and yet and then the comedy at the same time is sometimes quite dark, but sometimes incredibly silly and incredibly broad, and just like, I said that they'll go for like the lowest hanging fruit in a way where it's like some of it feels in the gap between 2009 and now like a bit tasteless, and I think in one of those ways where it's like, I thought it was going to be worse than it was in that regard for the most part. There's a couple of things that you're like, in some ways it's more of a pity. On the one hand, like Oscar Lomax is a really good example in that like literally every joke is about the fact he can't see. And like almost every joke that is made, it turns out he lost his eyes because he like sold them to a pair of Siamese twins who are like rival eBay sellers. But also
they both have eye patches implying that they didn't have eyes at all.
Yes, which is a whole strange, weird extra thing going on. They get caught in a weird bidding war for this Beanie Baby. And it's
the last of his collection. He needs like Mr. Chompy, this gator, and like that's kind of what he and Tea Leaf are hunting this entire time. But like, there's jokes, and you're right. There's a lot of like, there's such a great joke where like halfway through, Lomax is up and he's beseeching this young kid through a bedroom door, like I need this, gator. It'll free my childhood. And at the very end of the monologue, the kid comes out the other door and is like, I can't hear anything you're saying. Lomax was at the wrong door.
Yeah, a completely different door. Yeah, he's at the wrong door. And then there's a bit, I think that's in the same episode, where they're talking about, he's in the car with Tea Leaf, and they're talking, and they're waiting for a phone call from inside. And he's like, "Ring, why don't you ring?" And then he lifts into shot. You can't see what's in his hand, but he lifts up what he thinks is his phone to offer to Tea Leaf, and it's like a club biscuit, which is like a type of chocolate bar. It's like, see if there's any signal on this, will you?
There's an early joke with him. There's a lot of jokes with him in the phone. There's something early on where like Tea Leaf is asking about the letters, and Lomax keeps writing to NASA to warn them about something. But
it keeps references. Is there anything from NASA? Like, how many times? Yes, there's so much of that. And then, so they do that. They keep going back to that well with him in a way that does, on the one hand, make you think, there's so much more to this character that is funny that you could do more with. On the other hand, it's like, I do laugh when he offers up a fucking club biscuit chocolate bar. So like he gives him that, and Tea Leaf obviously just shrugs it off. And then about 3 seconds later, Tea Leaf's phone rings, and the first thing he does is lift the club biscuit to his ear and go, "Hello," and then realize he's not holding the right thing. And it's such a silly joke that to me feels like so much of that kind of humor, that silliness feels very British to me, and
Sure.
feels very like tonally just like, I don't know. In some ways, a weird contrast with the way the rest of the show is, and sometimes that works really well, and sometimes it doesn't. But the thing I really love about it is it's just is the commitment to, and I think this is like a broader thing for what they do in this show is we're going to play it very straight, right? Where all the characters are going to be big and grotesque, but there's no winking to the camera. It's not like Mighty Boosh, if anyone has seen
Well, I
that,
was going to bring up
where
Mighty Boosh,
it's
which
very
I found
self-aware.
early and adored. I feel like this is kind of Mighty Boosh was that for me at like 2009 or whatever.
Yeah, very much
Discovering
same
loving.
era stuff. Yeah, and like I think Mighty Boosh is much more self-aware and meta in that sense. Intentionally, I mean self-aware. Whereas with League of Gentlemen and with Psychoville, these guys are very much like they are actors. They are leaning into like the prosthetics to make Shearsmith and Pemberton play the different characters are really great. Honestly, they hold up like fantastically, and they're playing these very cartoony, weird characters, but they really inhabit each of these roles.
Yeah.
And there's something that I just love in comedy in general, where you're taking something that is very silly, or having a character say something very silly, but it's being delivered very sincerely, and they mean what they're saying.
Well, I was just kind of curious about like, I started as I realized at the time, I think I thought like, well, Mighty Boosh is pretty unique because I've never seen anything really like this of allowing themselves to also. I think Mighty Boosh feels a little less like written. I'm sure there's, they did a lot of
Mm.
stuff. The dialogue's really snappy, but like, I think like you guys were just kind of riffing and
Yeah.
jazzing on stuff, but like they would do. Oh, Noel Felding is my favorite part of Mighty Boosh is sort of like this. What is it like the Mystic Council, where like
Yeah.
Noel Felding's like a headless or just a head squid, and Richard Ayoade is sort of this like guy with a big
Yeah.
hat. But anyway, like that version of it is like, oh, okay, this is about comedians getting to just do a bunch of big prosthetic characters. This feels unique. And then it took me back to, growing up. One of the first big UK comedy tastes I got was this is so lame. Was late night VHS ads for both the Monty Python, which before I saw any sketches, I kind of heard the like, here's the 2 minutes of famous lines from Monty Python. I didn't know why a woman went, I told you I don't like spam. Didn't know what that meant, but just would see it in the ad. And then the other
Yeah.
one was for Little Britain, which
Right.
is Matt Lucas seemingly
And
doing a similar thing of like, I'm going to wear 50 faces in this.
yeah, so Matt Lucas and David Walliams did Little Britain, and that was, I think, probably fair to say, like, I guess was influenced by the League of Gentlemen, in that
Okay, so
kind
League
of
of
like
Gentlemen came first.
League of
Okay.
Gentlemen came first, and it sort of followed in the footsteps of leaning into the grotesque. I don't like Little Britain,
I've heard a bit knocked a lot.
I'm proud to say never did.
Hell yeah,
So,
get him.
yeah, I've always been on the right side of history. It's
Because that's got a little bit less tasteful. And by the way,
it's
like
not
Mighty
tasteful,
Boosh,
yeah.
which I love. There's like 3 or 4 episodes. Like it's another blackface episode. Okay, got it. Great.
Yeah, yeah. Like I think it's one of those things where, like, I mean, it's one of that stuff. It's that stuff where it's the 2009 of it all,
yes.
right? Like I think when they're doing it, like there's a character in League of Gentlemen that is basically like a sort of weird blackface character that is like where I think it's at that time, I guess it's comedians that are just trying to be kind of provocative and sort of strange and doing
Yeah.
kind of whatever it is they're doing. And it's like, look, yeah, there's lots of stuff there that I think you wouldn't do now.
There was
And they're
just a
like,
common
cool,
thing where it was
good.
okay to just do like an Indian character. Like everyone had Americans too, The Simpsons, right?
Yeah, like I think in Little Britain especially, it's like they're happy to just like, yeah, they'll play that and lean into this sort of weird stuff. But
Sorry,
yeah,
not
so
to talk about
then
how this is
no,
distasteful, but to
no, but like
Psychoville's
I think
credit,
Psychoville has a few of those moments and a few of those play things, and there's bits of it where you're like, oh come on, but then I think when you just sort of accept the like that's 2009.
I think this is much better by comparison. Absolutely.
It's aged better than I thought it would, Psychoville, I think. But I think what was so special about it to me is that it was I watched this at a time when I was just getting started with casual violence and writing comedy for the first time, and I liked with the League of Gentlemen that came before this. Weirdly enough, I didn't love the League of Gentlemen. People
Mm.
really loved it. It was like a big cult hit, and I think if you'd watched the live comedy that I was doing at the time, we got compared to the League of Gentlemen a lot. And I think that comparison was an easy, if you were doing, character comedy that was even vaguely dark, it was an easy, fairly lazy comparison in reviews to get compared to the League of Gentlemen. And so we did a fair amount. But weirdly, the League of Gentlemen wasn't that big an influence, I'd say, on me. But
Mm.
Psychoville was.
Oh,
And the
dude, I
reason...
could see so much. Like, having watched your series, Murder for Dummies, which we got to talk more about. I was like, yep,
yes.
I see the 1-to-1 for sure in this.
Yes, and I'd love to talk about those links for sure, because I think that, having made Murder for Dummies now, it's like the parallels between these two things. Like, I think this is why I wanted to talk about Psychoville, because even though it was such a long time ago, it's like in some of the most recent work I've done, you can see the DNA of this thing. And so going back to Psychoville, I think the thing that really blew my mind with it was taking a sort of sketch-like character, something that could just be there for one joke, and no, we're going to commit to digging into this character, making you feel sorry for these characters,
Yeah.
exploring their worlds. And I think what's nice about the way the mystery element sort of unfolds is that it does keep you watching. And I think, again, that was so compelling to me at the time. I remember when this was coming up on television and I wanted to know what happened next each episode.
Yeah, what did they actually do? And then by when the letters are kind of escalating of I know you killed her.
Yes,
so
and then you're getting hints and there's you keep getting glimpses of
I love
this
the VHS
person who's wearing
where the guy's like, I don't have a DVD player.
I've only got I don't have VHS. I've only got DVD. But and then they'll do little things where you'll see a glimpse of the blackmailer, right? And he's wearing a mask and a hat and a tall thing, and he uses a voice thing, so you can't tell anything about, other than it's a man. You can't really tell anything about who they are and what their identity is.
Oh, by the way, anytime I ever see someone with a voice modulator, I'm like, it's a woman. I'm just so used to that being. This one time it wasn't.
Yeah,
actually,
they could have played that, and I think they could have. I don't know how much they committed to the idea that it could be a woman with what I'm about to mention, but one of the only distinctive things about him is he's wearing black leather gloves. And then there's lots of other characters you start to notice across the episodes who are also wearing black leather gloves.
I actually had not thought about that at all.
So they do this to really plant this idea. There's a number of other characters who at various points are wearing black leather gloves.
I thought everyone was just being fashionable, and that was the style at the time.
Look, little column A, little column B. It can be two things. And so yeah, it's planting these little clues, trying to keep you guessing, but at the same time just being so character focused, even though you've got this thing going on in the background, this overarching story, each of those characters is invested in whatever is going on in their lives. It is not a story where they are each dropping everything to try and find out who's sending those letters.
And to their credit, I think it's really smart I think the writer mentality you would have as you're breaking this would be, all right, and they all get the letter in the first episode and they all react in different ways. I think it's really smart that you see the letters getting handed out, and then it's David and his mom, the letter gets kicked underneath the rug in the first episode or two.
Yeah,
so they don't even
Lomax
know
doesn't even see his letter. Oh no, he does. He gets the first one, which is in Braille.
Yeah, he gets that one. Jelly gets it wrong because it's actually going to Mr. Jolly. They found ways to vary it up so you're getting them at different times and allowing the characters to kind of pursue.
There's a bit later when Oscar Lomax goes back to his house and you find out that a bunch of the blackmail letters that we saw other people get, because he's been out the whole time looking for this lost Beanie Baby, Snappy the crocodile. He hasn't been back to his house all of this time, and so he's just missed so much of kind of what's been going on. And I think it's such a good choice.
Yeah, can we talk about a joke I love, by the way? I think it is, I'm trying to remember who was on the bus. I think it's David and his mom. And, no, sorry, maybe it's Joy. It's Joy. Joy's writing back from the hospital with her or
with
her
her with
kid,
Freddie
and she's
Fruitcake.
got like a newspaper in her purse, and then you see, I think it's the
Oh no, no,
mask.
no! This is oh yes, that's right. Sorry, yes, go on. Yes,
Well,
yes,
it's
yes.
just this dumb joke that it really got me. Of someone sits behind her on the bus and reaches down into her bag and pulls out the newspaper, and then in the crossword section subtly writes like "you killed her" and puts it back in, and you see this old man is like another row back watching it. Is he going to say something? And he whispers over his wife, "Number 8 down is you." Like, it's just such a stupid joke, but I really like
Yeah,
it.
and she's like the small round vegetable, and then he just gives her a nod, like,
Yeah.
yeah, like yeah, that's what it is. And so, to me, I think what was so kind of influential on, like, tangibly on what I was doing with casual violence at the time, our shows were building towards being a complete story, but we weren't
Mm,
quite there yet. But the show that was, I guess, like our breakthrough first Edinburgh show that did really, well, it wasn't literally our first one, it was our second one, but the first one that did really well for us and kind of made established us as an act was called Choose Death, and it was
mm.
about these. So the idea was each of us would play like a particular character in their own storyline, and we didn't really connect them except for the fact that, like, they all die. It's just about, like, different ways of tackling, like, they all die in some way at the end, and they're all
Mm.
dealing with death in like a different way. Like, one of them's trying to get like the perfect deathbed, and like and then you've got this wasn't specifically taken from Inside Number 9, but I had a pair of conjoined twin characters who were assassins, and one of them really wanted to be a baker instead, and so this was like the cause of like a falling out between the two of them.
Great. Sure.
And yeah, so like it was had like, yeah, each of us was playing like a different lead, and we sort of tell the stories of these characters and sort of unify it thematically, not really narratively. But so what? And then we did this in that show, and then the show we did after that the following year. And then the year after, we were doing more narrative stuff where it was all tied together. So I was progressing towards that as a writer. But specifically, this idea of, we're going to take a character that feels like they could just be their own sketch character,
Yeah, yeah.
build that out, build out their world, make you feel sorry for them, make you feel things other than just finding them funny, get you a little more invested in their story, and treat them as a character that can exist in the world you're being presented with. That was like so tangible an influence on me then. And I think was just me sort of that gap between my ambition, which was to be able to do something like Psychoville, and my ability, which wasn't quite there yet, to do something that felt like that was as character driven, and made you care about its characters more than a typical sketch show
Sure. No, and to its
was.
credit, honestly, when we watched, by the way, if we didn't say we watched the entire first series, I think we said that. The
Yeah.
first episode or two, I was enjoying it. To be honest, James, I think I was having a little bit like, oh, I don't like these people. Like, I was just one of those, like, oh, this is going to be like kind of unpleasant, especially like
Mhm.
David has his mom tucking his pants in. I think he almost seemed like he was
Yeah,
having
and
an
it gets like
orgasmic
weirdly
face or
sexual.
something.
Yeah, and like
And I was like,
it's such a
I mean, like,
creepy.
James,
It's
you're
really unpleasant. Yeah.
James, you're not this gross of a dude. And over time, I guess I felt bad for Joy because she's clearly got some trauma. And Lomax was sort of the first one, like, he's funny. Like, I get it. And it was over time I really was surprised how much I felt for them. Really, Mr. Jelly the most of all. David was the one
Yeah.
where I was like, oh man, he's just so gross. He's kind of like, he's just leaning into, like, he's drooling and he's doing this sort of like
Yeah.
talking like
And
a
he's so
like a
creepy. He's got that
Hodor.
like weird whisper. I don't think I can quite do it, but it's like there's a
Well, yeah,
bit where it's like they're going to kill. They get caught on like a weird serial killery thing, which we should talk about. But like, there's a bit where he's pretending to be someone else, and he's asked if he wants a drink. He's like, smoothie, and they're like, no, 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 no. Like, and his mum is just trying to get him to like not ask for anything. He's like, smoothie, I want a smoothie, and
yeah.
then he's like, mango. Like, it's like the specificity of it is so funny and silly, but he's just like, he's a really unsettling character. But
But
then also, I think by the
yeah,
end, you are a bit you see the sweetness to him that actually comes out in, and I'd love to talk about this. I mean, there's so much to talk about. We won't get to
I
everything, but
actually think,
the
but I think,
middle episode.
yeah, Dave. Oh yeah, I think I know exactly what you're talking about. Where it almost comes like it definitely becomes a stage play. David and his
Yes.
mom. We didn't lay that out. I think again, like to the tone of each of these, David and his mom starts off with such a weird premise that David works at a murder mystery diner.
Yes, and he
Uh,
is already obsessed with serial killers, so he's like, this is a cool job for him.
and his mom doesn't know. I was kind of
Yes.
like, why are they making all of this played out where he's like
Yeah.
sneaking out with an axe, and his mom is just like playing the keyboard with headphones on
Yeah.
because it needs to be set up for the farce of David does the wrong thing at where I guess like they're supposed to bring him into the kitchen. I don't know what he was supposed to do, but he
Yeah,
hung up.
so he's playing the waiter in like a murder mystery event where there's
Yes,
paying guests and actors, and everyone's meant to solve a murder. And then David is like, come quick, there's been a murder. And he's like beckoning, like dragging, come, like trying to drag them into the kitchen to see the next body. And he has gone, he's taken it way too far, and he's strung up the bot instead of it just being like someone there covered in blood, which for like an amateur
sure.
dramatic society is putting on an event. You would think it should be. Instead, what it is like she's hanging upside down from the ceiling, and like he's made like fake entrails to fall out of her, and he's like, someone has written "fuck pig" in his or her
I
own
forgot he was
excrement,
fuckpig.
and 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 it is implied and sort of semi-confirmed later that he did write it in
Feces.
actual shit. Yeah, because someone later on is like, you could have just used Nutella. It's exactly the same, which is such a silly line
One thing
anyway.
I didn't understand about that, which is me just going like, it's fine. I guess the maid who's hung up and she kind of says something, but like, was she going along with it, or did he literally pick her up and just hang her upside down and go,
I
"You're
think she's going along with it, but like he's clearly taken this whole thing
sure"?
like way too far, and so this is semen all over the floor, and so he gets fired from the job. And so because of this, he's like covered in blood because of what he's been, because he's made this murder scene happen. And because he gets fired, and then he comes home, and then he tells his mum, I did a bad murder. And his mum thinks this is because his mum has seen the blackmail letter, which is, I know what you did.
Oh, that's right. She already found it. Yeah.
She finds the letter that's addressed to David, puts two and two together, and thinks he's killed someone and is being blackmailed for it by the people in this murder mystery troupe.
Mm-hmm.
And so this sets them off. Initially, kind of like she goes to try and talk to the guy who runs the company,
Right.
and that doesn't go well. And they both, there's like a farcical thing where they're saying different things to each other, and they attempt to kill him. He actually escapes, but then gets hit by a car and dies.
That's
But this
right. I
sets
got
them
like
off on like a weird tangent where they do become serial killers, the two of them, and
we have
kind
to
of
kill
set off
everyone who was, I
was
guess, an
in the who
employee.
saw your murder.
Sorry,
Yes,
murder.
because she thinks he actually did kill someone and he didn't, and it
And
is
David's
not
going
good
along with
plotting.
it. I think
Yeah.
David's going along with it just because his mom's saying so, right? Like,
Yes, and increasingly you get the sense that she really likes doing this. Like, even though he's the one who's obsessed with serial killers, even though she indulges that fandom, like he's got a Lecter lamp, which is like his Hannibal Lecter lamp
right.
that he's drawn a Hannibal Lecter face on. She is the one who actually gets really into the serial killing, and he
I
starts
love
to kind of
this.
waver.
Yeah, I had never heard the term until my wife Jakylln Heidi had said it's called like a Pepper Potts voice. Like every comedian does the like it's an old term trope, the
Oh,
like
sure, yeah.
Monty Python does all of these for all their female characters. Just Dennis, there's some lovely filth down here. Like it's just that's the voice, right? And that's what Pembersmith is
Yeah,
doing
but he's
or
I
Shearsmith.
guess
Yeah,
leaning into it more like northern, like, oh, David. I can't do the voice, but like he's
sure.
I shouldn't try. But he's leaning into, yeah, like a very particular voice for that character. But yes, it is hitting that like but I think the difference is like when Monty Python were playing women, they're just being like, oh, hello, we're women. Whereas like, credit, I think where it's due to this is like the commitment to, like, I don't watch Maureen and think about it as this is a man in drag and this is how it's, and the joke is that this is a man dressed up as a woman
No, you're
playing
right.
this. Like I
Including like
buy,
Shearsmith in the Seven Dwarfs storyline. He is kind of like they're always in one of these stories, right? And like
yeah,
Shearsmith is playing, I guess, just sort of the catty, mean, yeah, like playing the evil queen, and he's playing it gay, but it didn't feel like the joke was that he was gay. Like
yeah,
he's just playing. It's part of the detail, and he's really just sort of a malicious, mean prankster that is causing this
yeah.
angst among the group.
Yes, exactly. And so I do think with that David and Maureen story, like I think again, it's one of those things where I know I felt this at the time, but probably wasn't able to articulate it as well as I can now, is that like it is too tenuous a misunderstanding for the story that follows. Given that how quickly it escalates into they start murdering
Yeah,
people, it is like for that all to be based on a really easily clarified misunderstanding is
yeah.
quite weak plotting.
Yeah, I love a good farce, man. Like I love a good setup of misunderstanding leads to this sort of thing. I think it's so fragile, like you say, James. I can kind of convince myself in the first couple episodes, like I think David must know why they're doing this, and he always wanted to murder because,
I
like,
think that is a bit of it that he does that. Like, I think because he loves serial killers so much, but then as it starts happening, he's starting to feel like, actually, no, I'm not comfortable with this. And they have such a weird relationship and are such weird characters that you do buy it up to a degree. But I think, when I talk about, watching them and falling in the gap between what my ambition was and my ability is, I think for the two guys who did this, later on when they're doing Inside Number Nine, it's anthology rather than serialized storytelling, but in terms of building in big twists and reveals, their plotting is really good. Here, and we'll talk about this in other places, I'm sure, it falls apart at a couple of places. It's not always good plotting.
no,
And
the yeah, is it worth going
but
to
they're
quickly?
trying, but what they're trying to is so interesting. But yes, go on.
Well, I was wondering if, like, because I think the murders have different levels of importance, right? They're like, you said the first one's an accident, they got hit by a car, and they're like, great, but we still need to knock them off. The second one is kind of the dumbest one, right? Where it is like, we're going to the woman who is like the second in command, we're pretending to be
Yes.
beauticians.
Yes.
That's the, like, where they ask for a smoothie when they should be playing low. There's a lot of, like, David, you're dressed in drag and your boobs falling out, and we're adjusting it and all that. The joke of, this felt the most low rent of, we are in your office, woman, we are setting up a power generator to burn off your hair and clipping what do you call it, like AC DC tongs to your lips, and she just starts kind of like forcing herself to shock like she's on the Star Trek Enterprise and getting hit by a laser. That's kind of the dumbest low rent version of this show at all, but it's still
Yeah,
fun. They're having fun.
100%. But then after that, and I remember at the time reading about this, like typically for a British, sitcom season, you'd have 6 episodes, right? And they apparently had enough space in the budget to do a seventh episode as long as it was essentially one location. And
Okay.
so for the episode that's in the episode 4, right in the middle, they do a David and Maureen episode that is a whole episode long version of Rope, the Hitchcock film.
Oh, I've
Where
never actually
they
seen that. Yeah, okay.
yeah, so like it's a whole parody of Rope where it's like not only is Rope about these two guys who hide a body in a trunk in the middle of the room and try to get away with it, and it all takes place in that room, but what they also do in both the film and in this is it's one take, right? And in
Oh wow,
Hitchcock
I didn't
era,
even notice it actually being one take. I was just kind of invested in it. Yeah.
yeah, but it is, and it's so fucking cool. So like in Hitchcock time, I think cameras could only actually film continuously for 12 minutes, and so if you watch that movie, there's a lot of moments where like you'll see where they've made the cuts because they are trying to evoke this, we're staying in the room the whole time, but the technology isn't there. Where the technology was at the time they made this was there's one cut because they have to do it at one point, and there's one bit where they open the trunk and it fills the
Oh,
screen, and then they
yeah.
close again, and that's the only place there's an actual cut. And it's hidden.
Really
You can't.
smart. Because I wondered
Yeah,
why, like I got the invoking like, oh, this is definitely feels like a stage play now. It's the only time in the show where it's like, you guys aren't shooting in a house. This is very clearly like a 3-wall prop
yeah,
door, that sort of thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it feels like it really was the seed of what Inside Number Nine is. And like, okay, we can tell an anthology story because they're killing off one of the guys. They hide the body in this chest in the middle of his room, in his living room, and then a detective shows up. and this is played by Mark Gatiss from the League of Gentlemen. So like this is his cameo effectively. He comes in playing this. I say playing because yeah, spoiler is he's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
actually a detective. You find out he's here to audition for the murder mystery, which. Watching and I'll be interested to know whether you picked up on this watching it, because as a kid watching it for the first time, I said kid in my early 20s watching it for the first time, I did not get it until the reveal, and the reveal blew my mind. Watching it today, knowing what the reveal already is, I'm like, he's hamming it up so much that it feels like the seeds are planted. And I'm curious to know how you felt when
Did
you
I
were
see the twist
watching it.
coming? No, I actually,
Yes.
just because the setup was so clearly already built on like the inspector has come at the worst time. There's plenty of reason for there to be it. This is the third murder in clearly a set of. By the way, like David and his mom are being so dumb. Like they are like they already know they've had a connective thread of people being murdered, and then these next people would be, investigated on, and David would be a number one suspect, you would think.
Yes,
But
yes.
I totally believe that the game of this scene now is the inspectors come while you guys are hiding the body, and you're being
And it's
really
a stage
bad at.
farce. It
Yeah.
is like, can we keep this body hidden and get this guy
You're
out?
shuffling around, you're putting him on the coat hack, and be like, no, you got to take your coat off so they can put it on the door, and
Yeah, and because they've
argue
hidden
about
he's
tea.
hidden the body on the door.
I love
And
the
then
mom
there's-
going like, David, go get the tea from the knife drawer, like, and he like, just,
yeah. And then there's the really stupid jokes where like I think there's one that I remember just stuck in my head forever where like Maureen accidentally calls. They're meant to be pretending that David is the guy they've just killed,
Yes.
whose name I can't remember, and she calls him David, and the detective picks up on it, and he's like, David, and he looks at them, and they're like, "Oh, I don't know why I said that. It was a what do you call it? A Freudian clit."
yeah, that made up for the joke because they didn't even have a clever way of why she said it. Yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah,
So many silly, ridiculous little gags like that throughout the show,
and so
that are
much of
just
it, right?
like,
Yeah,
oh.
the like. I think also in terms of all of that, also working in really interesting stuff, right? And they'd established that David had lost his dad at one point. He had blamed him. I think we already know at this point that he had blamed himself for trying to help him sleep because he wasn't feeling well.
You
And putting
find that
something
out in this
tea.
episode. Yeah, you find that out in this
and
one.
you thought he did it, and then actually, it kind of comes out over this whole talking to the detective, and that while they're both talking to different things, the murder for real and the murder audition, that the mother had been doing it kind of darkly. I think he said the dad was beating her, and
it's what,
she was poisoning
she
him.
specifically says, he used to beat me, Inspector. It's what we did before we had tellies.
Oh my god, that's right. That's such a good dark joke. Jesus Christ.
It's what people did before they had tellies. It's
Yeah,
like,
just kind of excusing
Yeah.
it, but also the reason why she murdered. So David didn't actually do it. He felt blamed for it, but also David kind of realizing by the end, because Mark Gatiss is like, oh, it was so funny, by the way, the murder story you guys told me about her actually
yes,
doing
and then
it.
you get that twist at the end when, like, he finds out this new information about his mum that she's just confessed to the detective, and so it is really well plotted, that particular episode, and just well structured, and it is that like parody, I guess, of Rope, but also it is just like such a good little stage farce that is happening in this little tight half hour, which blew my mind when I watched it.
I love the end of that, by the way, too. I can't remember why they set up that while they were in his house, they turn on the record player and it's playing this. Yeah, is that a song or
So it wasn't a song that I knew. Superman is by a band called Black Lace, who also have this song called Agadoo, which is also like a novelty song. And both of these are like sort of weird, like Agadoo is very similar tonally to the Superman song, which is like, it's kind of is music that like in the 80s would have been played at a children's party.
Yeah, it's, by the way, to listeners, it's not Three Doors Down Superman, which I'm sure, James, you do not know. That was early 2000s American butt rock. Yeah, it's like Rafi, or like I'm trying to think of other. Yeah, it was a very silly. Wave your hand and now you dance, and
wave your hand, clap your hands, swim, blah blah blah. And then the last thing, because it's meant to be like actions to each thing, and then the last one is like Superman, and you raise your fists into the air and you're meant to fly around like Superman. Relatedly, and funnily enough, I always used to associate that song with with that because that was the first time I saw it. One of the guys in my comedy group our musician once did a solo set where it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen, where he came on dressed as Batman and in like a shit Batman costume and started doing all the actions that are in this song, which is like sleep, clap your hands, and he's doing all the things. And then at the end, when it goes Superman, he just looks really sad.
Oh, like he's missing his friend. Like he's that guy.
Like it's just like instead of Batman, it's Superman, and he's just
Just
gutted.
didn't get
And
it.
it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, so it's not him, and it's just
Well, and bringing this up too, like not only was that just kind of a silly thing to see David, like a child's mind. I loved the joke at the end of like, despite the last 20 minutes of this sort of game, the jig is up, and you just see the mother like kind of like slowly walk over to the record player and turn it back up. So this man's going to be murdered over this kid's song. Very funny, very dark.
Yeah, it's such a weird show in that way, and I think what's so interesting about it, watching it now especially, and I think again, it's like I think I felt this at the time, and it's different from feeling it and knowing it. Now it's like it doesn't always juggle the different tones and the ambition of what it's trying to do successfully. But we're not going to get into it, but season 2, the reason I wasn't like watch beyond season 1 is because I think season 2 is pretty bad, honestly.
Oh, interesting, because it's continuing some of the story, right?
Yeah, so it's continuing with these characters, and they introduce some new ones, one of whom is quite memorable and good. But the second season, plotting wise, goes completely off the rails. And I think what's so good about this one is, even though it doesn't quite achieve everything it's trying to do, that core conceit of wanting to know who's sending these letters, what's the big deal here, which it turns out is connected to all of these people, almost all of them were in a insane asylum. They were in a mental hospital where there was like this villainous super
was it
evil
Nurse Cratchit? What's her name? What's the name?
Nurse Cratchit's I think the inspiration. Her name Kensington, I think, is her name.
Yeah.
And she like abused them all, and was like, and then one time like she's sort of pushing it too far, and then they sort of like David acts like they're all become sort of complicit in the death of this woman. Yeah. And the supposed death, which we should probably talk about in a second. They all become complicit in the death of this woman. And
yeah, we can mention the whole thing now. It seems like they're all getting pushed and being told to like perform a song for some inspection. She's just treating them like monkeys. David has had enough. You totally get why he's being hit by a cattle prod, being forced to recite the song.
They're rehearsing Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Oh, is that what it is?
It is. And like my favorite little detail is like David is wearing like a cable, like a black electric cable around his neck with like just a few little colored bands on it that is meant to be the coat.
Oh, that's what that is. Okay, that's
great. So yeah, and then David like snaps when she's been tasering him and like being really horrible and like physically hurting him, and then he pushes her because he keeps getting the lyrics wrong, and every time he gets the lyrics wrong because he's meant to be listing the colors. And again, this is a really funny but dark joke. He's trying to do it and he's getting flustered, and she keeps tasering him and tasering him and tasering him, and it's horrible. And then he pushes her and she falls back and hits her head on the piano. And then and she's still. And then the next thing that happens is David just recites all the lyrics, all the colors perfectly.
Oh, and I love Lomax, who's been blind, who playing the piano, has been like, "Great job, David! I knew you'd finally get it.
Yes, good job." It's so fucking ridiculous. And so basically what sort of happens is they all, or like most of them, but the blackmailer's plan is not as good as they think it is. Most of them get lured to the original hospital that these guys set on fire to try and hide their crime and also kill Kensington. And there's a character who it turns out is her son and is trying to get revenge for her death, and so
who
that's
was really
why
smartly connected to. I mean, it's not perfect. It's kind of
weird. We could spoil it. It's really he's Mr. Jolly.
The other one that Mr. Jelly was confused for, who I think made him the first most sympathetic. That this doctor who lost Jelly's hand decided to be a clown and take his like entire act.
Did steal his act.
Yeah. Was also the only reason he had messed up the surgery was because which is so silly to think about. In the middle of surgery, a nurse running up to you saying, "Doctor, your mother just died," and then he ran off. The surgery was botched. That's why Jelly lost his hand. Like, Jelly is getting pulled into kind of by accident, right? This entire thing. Though Jolly Lynn later says, like, "Oh, I'm mad at you.
I blame you most of all." But then there's a line that Jelly says at the end, which I hate, which is like a meta joke where it's like, so Jolly says all that to him, and Jelly basically says, "All right, yeah, I get it now." And he's like, "Oh, but I'm not sure it all makes sense. I don't know. I have to think it through." A little like writer acknowledgement that like they haven't tied up every single loose end.
I don't know how you feel about
and
that.
I hate that so much.
Yeah, the one that I think about a lot is if a writer is like, "Yeah, well, this is dumb," isn't it? Like, well, they should have done a better job, right?
That really annoys me.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of one where like you could do that and it works, but usually it just goes like, "Well, come on, man!" Like, I don't.
It's a real bugbear, and I hated it then, and I hate it now because it's like especially to me at the time. I can sort of see the holes in it a bit more now, but at the time I felt this was like a pretty sophisticated thing to have pulled off, and in some ways it is. Like, and it is so ambitious.
Oh, dude, to plot out, by the way, all of these like 7 or 8 arcs is very impressive on how. Even though there's a couple like, oh, what like, I'm so sorry, I'm blanking on the dwarf's name, like Robert, his car just like runs out of gas when they need to, and they stumble across this.
Then so they end up in like a weird witches thing. Which, by the way, one of the reasons season 2 is bad is like I think they just sort of they give him like this really fucking weird ending where he ends up in this weird fairy tale house, and I haven't rewatched season 2 ahead of this podcast, but what I remember is like he escapes from there pretty early on at the beginning of second season. It's a real, we wrote ourselves into some corners here and can't think of what to do. And I would have allowed what they did at the end of season 1. And there's a lot of choices at the end of season 1 that they make where it feels like right at the end, they're throwing like a shitload of like big weird ideas at the wall.
What's the new hook, right? And there's that like, oh, he had a locket with a Kensington's locket.
And so it's to do with this locket partly, but then there's just so much. And there's a weird thing where like, at the end, Mr. Jolly blows up the asylum with everyone in it, and at the beginning of season 2, this opens with a funeral, and it turns out to be Mr. Jolly's funeral, and he's the only one who's actually died. But then the characters start getting killed off one by one.
Oh, for real?
In the new season by the new sort of antagonist. And I'm kind of like, if you wanted to fucking kill them off, you had your chance. Kill them then.
I was going to ask, because I was looking them online and I saw that there was a Halloween special after this that sort of like connected it.
Yes, and that sort of didn't have any real plot information other than...
I couldn't find anything, and I guess I could have jumped to series 2, but it said, like, you find out that 2 people died in the explosion and 2 are critically injured, and I could not find who those 2 are. But it sounds like maybe it was just Jolly? Jolly's the only one who didn't make it.
And I can't remember who the other one is who dies, but none of the main characters that you've been following
It's probably that poor... No, I was going to say, it's probably this poor, like, Asian nurse comes in near the end...
maybe she dies. I can't remember if she's in season 2 or not.
But Joy like assumes that this woman is now her baby reborn,
and I get this as like an escalation of Joy going mad, but I didn't love that either. And so it feels like the ending of the show is so messy. And it's a shame because I think up to that point, what it's doing is so interesting, and it just doesn't quite bring it home. But even sort of regardless, like I think what was so nice about watching it back is like it's so silly, this show, and it knows it, and yet even though it's committing to like the seriousness of like its story in some ways, it's just like it's deferring to the jokes so much, and it's just like we've got a bunch of really silly characters and we've got some really obvious silly jokes we can make about them, and we're going to make them, and I really like that about it.
To its credit, I think it was I shared Tea Leaf's frustration, but I think it's so interesting that Tea Leaf is like the least, he's like the only non-weird one, right? Like,
yes,
I do think it's almost a waste of that character that he never really gets anything to do other than one time he pretends to be in love with one of the conjoined twins to steal the money, but that's like one scene. And otherwise he's like very straight, he's risking it, he gets trapped because he's found the stuffed animal. The very end of it, right, is like, we've solved it, we've gotten you the last Beanie Baby, and Lomax takes it to a cliff and just throws it in the water, which we had first learned the other ones had all sunk in the ocean, and it's why the only one. And he's like, oh, this is my like mind game where I go and I hunt it over and over again. Like, that's
because
so
this is why he was in the asylum. Yeah,
that's so frustrating, but also I get it. Like, it's funny. It's going for the joke.
To me, that worked. Like, to me, of like all this, you know, the big ending didn't wrap up, and like I think it is, you know, is a little frustrating, but it's frustrating for Kaluuya's character, who like I think he's really compelling to watch. I mean, obviously, testament to like how successful he would go on to be, despite the fact he doesn't get that much to do. Like I always like he's so good to watch in this show, despite
he's charismatic really well. And like I get why
he's funny, and like the bits where he gets to do a little joke and play it very straight, he does and does very well.
Just to pitch off of that, I mean, I know that's not where the tone would go. I would hope. I saw that I think he's in series 2. I would have been craving that, like, by the end of it, he is now a psycho. You know what I mean? Or something where, like, this adventure has broken him. Where you're seeing... That's one of my favorite things in a long-going series. Like, I love in Always Sunny, for example, how the characters that they meet in season 2 or 3, like Cricket the priest, Rickety Cricket, by the time it's like season 7, they have destroyed this man, right? Like, there's a corroding influence on this group of characters. Would have been interesting to see, like, I don't know, by the time Lomax throws the Mr. Chompy into the waters, like, you see the first part of his psyche break or something. And he's just like, fuck this, and walks away, kind of thing.
I think what ends up, for one of the few things that I remember being successful about season 2, they don't do that with him, but like, I think because they recognize he's he's likable and he's good and he's sort of relatable, he gets more to do.
There's still so much to enjoy about this. There's so many reveals. There's nothing illegal about typing in Google how to watch Psychoville on a VPN. You'll totally, you could find it. A few small moments I think are underrated that aren't fully tied to the story, but one that really sticks out to me is when David has had enough. He realizes his mom is actually worse than him. By the way, there's a whole walking through a museum of serial killers and like the musical number.
The musical number, which is so strange, but sure,
Yeah, and there's a great joke at the end where like the guy running the murder mystery museum has come back in not knowing what's happened. He's like, oh, maybe we do a story here. And then Jack the Ripper fades back in reality. It's been done. Like, great. But then David goes to, I guess, like the police station? Not even the police station.
It is the... I didn't realize initially as I was watching it, but like it's something we have in England called the Citizens Advice Bureau, which is not which is basically what it sounds like. It is like not the same as going to the police station.
Is it just the information desk of like a government?
So it's like a government service where it's like trying to... It's like, for example, like if you're dealing with debt, right? That they will... help you. So it's like a government thing where like they will help you with
that. Sounds nice. Stuff. We should have those.
Nice.
That'd be cool.
It's a good thing. So he goes to the Citizens Advice Bureau to confess to doing the murders.
5 murders. I've done 5 murders.
5
and
murders.
This guy
3
like
men, 2 ladies.
I love a good bureaucratic joke of just this guy going like, I believe you. I'm calling my coworker. I'm a little annoyed that you killed him in different counties. That's gonna be...
we can't help you because that's more Barnet rather than Haringey. Yeah.
Really I'm just silly. A sucker for that kind of like government bureaucracy and waiting in queues. Like I think even that feels like a very British thing also applies here.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, definitely.
No, that's one that just stood out to me. I wanted to give a shout. Somehow, actually, I think maybe that's maybe one of the funniest scenes in the whole.
It is a really good scene. I think they bring that character back in season 2 and
good.
Try and get him to do like a strangers on a train thing with David,
or the old woman at some point. Like Jelly's great. Like by the time
the old woman who gets handcuffed to Jelly
because he's doing a show at like a senior citizen center, gets handcuffed to a random woman who's now just pulled along for the last 2 episodes. But there's this really dark physical comedy joke of like he's getting slowed down because of her. She's now in the bathroom. He's standing outside the bathroom with the door half closed. She's mentioning that she has diabetes.
Diabetes, yeah.
Yeah.
She's asking for a chocolate bar because she gets diabetes.
she faints while he's on the other side of the door. Great physical acting by Shearsmith, how like half collapsed being pulled down by this woman, reaching into the bathroom with, you can tell her pants are down around her ankles, trying to fix that. A little child comes by, sees that.
Holding a chocolate bar.
Is trying to pay him for the chocolate bar, has the kid reach into his pocket to fish it out. Then a cleaning woman walks in, sees beyond just a like child, sex. This is a very dark joke, a child sex joke. Like also old woman handcuffs attached. She doesn't even do anything. She just rolls her eyes and walks past.
Yeah, it's just
It's
an old
just,
cleaning lady walking in on like there's an old woman passed out in a toilet cubicle, handcuffed to like a clown who has got like a little boy like reaching into his pocket to try and fish something out. And he's
and
going
he's
like, "Oh,
saying
you
like,
almost
"Oh
had it
yeah, you
there.
almost
Yeah, you
there." Like,
almost had
oh
it there,"
yeah,
because he's trying to reach a coin. And she's just like, yeah, rolls her eyes and gets on with it like she's seen this a million times. Um, yeah, so much good stuff in there. It's amazing.
fantastic. It's very impressive in that way. I think it's a great way to juggle all this. Again, I'm kind of shocked. Like, not to get into the politics, just the idea of British broadcasting for you all. Like, the idea of this sort of like state funded, right? Like,
Yeah.
if PBS was putting on like 30 Rock, right? There's something so interesting about we are one of your main forms of entertainment in the country, and we're funded, and we're also making real weird shit. Like,
I know. I wish they made weirder stuff now. I wish they committed to that quite as much as they
oh, have they
did
pulled
in
back? Because like
that
BBC4
era.
feels like the wacky channel is the impression I've
I
gotten.
think it's like, yeah, I don't think they make shows like this anymore so much. But like, they did make however many seasons, a lot of seasons of Inside Number Nine, but that is a more accessible show. It's much more like Twilight Zoney, I guess in that way. But I think those shows, like particularly Psychoville, I think came at a time for me where it's like that it came at exactly the point where I was trying to make comedy that was like this. And I think, we talked about that sort of connection to Murder for Dummies, which is like the short version is it's like a true crime horror comedy like mock doc that I made, where the premise is that everyone has always loved ventriloquism, as we all remember. It was popular, it was bigger than Princess Diana, bigger than the Spice Girls, and it's all down to this one ventriloquist who gets murdered in his dressing room in the 90s. Killer's never found. The documentary takes place in the present day, and they're trying to, and everyone who's being interviewed clearly has a motive for wanting the guy dead and had a like connection to him, had a grudge in whodunit style, and then one by one they start getting killed off and the documentary starts to go off the rails. And so you within this, I think what's the reason I wanted to talk about Psychoville, I guess, in relation to my own work, is because it's that influence is so tangibly there. I think in the same way, I'm like, okay, we're taking each of these characters that we're going to have in the show, we're going to kind of push the silliness of them a little bit. Like we have the guy who got killed at the height of his fame hired a live-in butcher to like come and work in his basement that he converted to an abattoir, and it's just played like completely straight. And obviously this guy's one of the suspects, but he's very charming, but he's also just clearly a psychopath.
Yeah, the fact that that's
And
kind of makes him very clear. Like, well, I wonder if he did it. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, and there's a guy who is like a rival ventriloquist who also, I guess, accuses the dead one of having stolen his act. But the guy who's still alive, the rival, was never successful, went on to become an incredibly successful human rights lawyer, was nominated, won the Nobel Peace Prize, but he's still bitter. He's like, yeah, but it's not exactly the golden puppet. Like he's mad about it still, and he still hates this ventriloquist. And so just leaning into kind of all that stuff. But because what we were doing, and yeah, in the same way, like our show's a thriller because you're not trying to just find out who killed the first guy, the guy the documentary's about, but now the documentary's going off the rails because all the interviewees are getting killed, and there's this ongoing question of like who did it. And this is all on YouTube, by the way, if anyone wants to check it
No,
out.
I was going to
Please
say,
do.
make sure for
It's
sure.
good.
Murder for Dummies. All episodes are free. It's by the way, can I just say like it's so funny, James. I genuinely am not just doing this to blow smoke up your butt. As great as Psychoville is, and there's some fantastic jokes in Psychoville, I actually am finding Murder for Dummies to have better joke pound for pound, like
Thank
the
you.
rhythm and the cadence. There's times in Psychoville that are really just like, this is pure just drama right now. This is pure
Yeah.
thriller, or a joke is just not. I'm really have enjoyed the jokes you guys are doing in Murder for Dummies.
Thank you.
Very clever.
Yeah, like we cared a lot about making it super joke dense, but then also it does get does start to as a show. The thing I'm most proud of is that it does lean into like the thriller and horror and gets really dark, but also and ties into I guess my biggest criticism of Psychoville, and yeah, in my own arc of like being influenced by and then moving on from this influence maybe is that in our sixth episode, it's the end of a murder mystery. You need to find out who did it, and all the clues need to come together. And I fretted so much about making sure that we didn't end up. I don't think I ever cited this specifically, but I was just so keen not to end up in a situation where you could have a character say, like Mr. Jelly does, like, I think that all makes sense. Oh, maybe it doesn't. I have to think back on it. I don't know. I don't know if everything all tracks. I remember just before we put out the 6th episode on YouTube, going like, I really need, like, I hope nobody spots something that I didn't spot.
I
And
mean,
the-
I remember thinking all the time of like, I'm worried about the Comic-Con question, right? And like, I think on some of my shows where someone will be like, well, how did this not make
Yes.
sense? And you're like, you also, I think in every show I watch, even the ones I love, especially I think as writers, you might identify with this too, James, of like, I could kind of see a logic hole there, right?
Yes,
This small
yes.
detail. But if the writers are good to hide the ball, so to speak, like if it's not super important, if it wasn't structurally killer, of like, how did the character
There's
get to
one
the scene?
thing in Murder for Dummies that that was a sort of a clue that I didn't acknowledge.
Oh, interesting.
And I think, funnily enough, I can think of like a parallel moment in Psychoville where it's like there's a bit where Oscar Lomax, when he gets his first letter that says, I know what you did, Tea Leaf says, like it's in Braille for him, and he feels it, and then his expression changes, and Tea Leaf goes, what's the matter? Who was it? And Lomax goes, it's them. And it's like, who is them? We know, like, there isn't really a them that it makes sense.
Huh.
It would be, it feels like a thing that was written to like do that. And I'm hesitant to say this out loud, but in the first episode, I'm just gonna commit to it. You get an exclusive admission in the first episode of Murder for Dummies. There's a particular bit where the live-in butcher is being questioned, and there's this reveal that, like, one of the reasons he was initially arrested for the murder is he sent death threats to the victim, and there's a reason he sent death threats to his best friend that he's got, and he's being given print like examples of the death threats he sent, and then the last one is not in his handwriting, and he's like, I didn't write this one, and I don't ever explain.
I think as long as it doesn't invalidate your mystery too bad.
Yes, and that was why I feel like it's okay in hindsight, at least. It's like, I wish I'd caught it, but at the same time, it doesn't invalidate the mystery. And the biggest compliment I got from people who watched it was that it was solvable. And it's like, people were like, the clues were there and I can see it, but I didn't get it. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I wanted.
I rant too much. I probably have done to you as well, but like, I hate CinemaSins, that YouTube channel that I think has infected like executives I've worked with, where they're so worried about getting dinged for something, like that actual getting a ding, that they are over worried about that in a story versus like, do the characters work? Does the arc make sense? Like over trying to be like, gotcha. It's the Simpsons joke that I always love of like, what is it? The Itchy and Scratchy Con and combo guys like,
I hope someone got fired for that blunder.
Yeah, the xylophone, the same note comes with different rib codes. Am I supposed to imagine this?
What are we meant to believe? It's some kind of magic
cage?
xylophone.
Like, that's such a great embodiment of like, you're focusing on the wrong thing. Completely.
That episode, by the way, of like, I think I after I moved here, the first time I rewatched, it's after moving here, Itchy and Scratchy and Poochie, was traumatic, having worked in animation.
I think about the Poochie the dog episode all the time. Absolutely.
Every single joke in that episode is about us and our lives. And I...
the constantly like the exact, the test market of like, you want a show that's like both serious and I'm sorry I'm misquoting these, right? But like serious and grounded, but also off the walls and wacky.
and full of magic robots, and then there's a bit where like Homer's making pitches and he says, like, whenever Poochie's not on screen, all the other characters should be asking, where's Poochie?
I think about that all the time.
I got that exact note on Dogs in Space.
About a dog. There's one that worth recommending too. I don't know if Rocko's Modern Life was anything in your purview.
I know of it, but I've never watched it.
Fantastic show. I think it relatively holds up. There's a great 2-part episode, James, you should check out, called Wacky Deli. That is very much the creative team and Joe Murray working out some stuff where Rocco and his friend go to an animation studio. They meet the creator of like a really popular kind of SpongeBob type show. I think they drive him crazy. And then so Rocco and his friend and Filbert make a cartoon show called Wacky Deli, and it's all just like bad animation jokes. There's a character, it's like about like there's a character named the Cheese who just comes out and is like, I am the Cheese, I am the best character on the show. Like, it's all very clearly them hacks trying to make a cartoon. It's very, very satisfying.
Amazing. That's cool. But yeah, any final Psychoville thoughts?
No, I think I'm really impressed by. I do want to check out the Shearsmith and Pemberton's other work.
Yes, do check out Inside. It's weird to end this with a recommendation for like check out their other show, but you should. It's fantastic. And it was influential on me as well, and it's still I think so impressive in so many ways. But Psychoville is, if you can get hold of it, I think it's genuinely worth watching. I think it's
worth the watch. I think it's worth to say it stuck with you. It did. Right?
Yeah, it's had such a big influence on me, and so I think for me that's why I wanted to bring it on this show, because it was such a formative thing. But I remember texting you before, after I sort of suggested this, because I could have gone with Garth Marenghi and be like, that was a big influence and it completely holds up and it's great. Psychoville, I'm like, I don't know if this holds up as well as I want it to, but to me, it's not only do its flaws make it interesting, because I think its flaws come from where it's trying to do something very ambitious, but also those don't hold it back from still being a very funny and compelling and engrossing show that is like made by people who are very, very good at what they do and would go on to be even better. So like it's fantastic stuff.
Absolutely. No, and yeah, James, in terms of recommending, obviously the listeners should check out Murder for Dummies. It's all online at the Casual Violence channel, right?
Yes, that's right. YouTube.com/casual violence, or if you go to murderfordummies.com, it's all there. And it's good. We've won lots of film festival awards. People like it. It's good. And some people say it's funnier than Psychoville.
I would argue.
Yeah.
No, of course, and also like online, people should check you out anywhere. I mean, social media is kind of a dying, dead place, but
yes, and thank God. But I am at James Hamilton on Blue Sky, which I'm very occasionally on, and Instagram less so. But I've got my own name, so it's just that.
No, yeah, please, everyone check out James. James, it's been so wonderful to have you on. Like, you're one of my
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
I love talking shop with you and writing and stories, and it's great to have a reason to have you on the podcast in that way as well.
Delighted to be. We can talk. We'll do Garth Marenghi next time. Looking forward to it already.
If you listening enjoyed this episode and want to support the show and get access to more, you can go to patreon.com/stories that stick. You get access to all of these episodes early and ad-free. You get access to bonus episodes we do every month, like Goosebuds, where me and my associate producer, Jakylln Heidi, are reading through Animorphs currently. You get Campfire Hang.
You're doing Animorphs?
Oh,
sorry to interrupt, but you're doing Animorphs?
Yeah, hell yeah. Are you an Animorphs guy?
Okay. Oh my God, I'm an Animorphs guy. All right. I
might need to have you on for an Animorphs. Yeah, I adore Animorphs. We're revisiting it.
Heidi's never read it. Yes.
Heidi's never read it before, so I'm getting to watch her go like, this is really good. Like this is
was so we're gonna I wish we could I'll
come
on
to another time. You can get access to all of those, access to our Discord, and you can vote on what we're covering next, along just supporting the show and keeping the lights running at patreon.com/stories that stick. You'll also hear some lovely patrons at the end of this episode who are forever immortalized in the Book of Names. But thank you all for supporting the show. James, thank you again for being on.
My pleasure.
Lovely.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Until next time. Goodbye.
Until next time. Bye-bye.
This episode of Stories That Stick is brought to you by our wonderful Patreon supporters over at patreon.com/stories that stick, especially those in the Book of Names. Starting with Stefan Jive Turkey Kuwabara, Nathan Dolezal, Hey Josh Rob, Afsheen, Buddy Morrill, Stealth a Beautifully Fleshed Skeleton Bates, Robert Moon, Jason Crooker, Zenticles, The Juggalopolist, Aiden Wants to Take a Nap, Gale, Jar Jar Slinks, Chosen One, Clay Castle, John Keaty, Miguel Pardo, Yanni Markovina, Anthony Mulberry, Carl, Brooke X, Christian Van Skeever, Jeremy Lowe, Jonas Engman, Zach Connor, Elusive Koala, Luke, Jesus Christ, Brian Hobgood, Tom Whittam, Lord Cornwallis, Rushy Glenn, Juan Jalapena, Chip Handsome, Matthew Sutton, Tobias Clark, Russell Kasberg, Xavier Jimenez Castillo, Rena Kemp, Hamboat, Limp Duck, MC Hamster, Raymond Hernandez, The Crow Fence, but seasonal, Jeff Coffey, Scotty Pippen, Chris Jorkin Madorkin Nelson, Zach Weir, Meet Virginia, Kieran McNamara, Diet Soda, Woof 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 Woof, A Pair of Scots, Meta for the Metaphor, Estamena, Lord of Paul's Pants. You still have those pants. I hope they're holding together. Zam Bambino, Ma, the Meatloaf, Burger's Wonderful World, some of Chad's bird friends, Nicholas Maloney, Lucretia McEvil, Need More Kimchi, Mutant Astronaut, Logan Derby, Cameron Hansen, Eric Horwitz, Generally Depressing, Philip Reynolds, Nate Bit G, Scott Wable, Joey Evans, Resident Lorcana Guy, Stinklich found the flask of Tefnut. What you gonna do with that, Stinklich? Will you use it for good? Will you use it for evil? Mr. Unimportant, Roman Poetry, Megan McCormick Mason, Sprinkle Buns, Aaron Lord, SSJ Trogdor, Max Boltzmann, Farah, Mike Spaghetti Jones, Robot Arena, Quest #1 Agnes Tachyon fan, Big Nick Lane, Kyle O'Neill, Tacky Tammy, Kiwi of Lerv, Chevy LaGrange, Chris Curto, Jesse Boggs, Michael Malloy, Tick Me Out to the Hollow Suite, Dakota Kemp, Ty Meets Flesh, Odin's Eyehole, still a pretty decent dog, generally speaking, Turaku, Kit Bush, Jafar is a homeowner. Congratulations, Jafar. I hope you don't have to do a repair immediately, as it did for me. Congratulations. Dennis Wright, Yover the Moon, B, Clint Deerking, Jolly Old Jules, Smelodies, Chris Can't Think of a Fun Name, Spencer Leith Johnston, Dumb Bitch Juice Just Thriving in Her Corpse Bucket, Al and MC, R.L. Stein's Post-Apocalyptic Triple G Gazongas, Treehouse of Jorge, Complex, Better a Yeti with a flaw than a Bigfoot without, Wyvern, Angus Keith, Canadian Ghoul, Big Old Dumb Burb says take time to be kind to yourself, Nathan Galindo, J. Fenn Crane, Jackie Bay, Ari, Andrew, Ben Sora 13, Snack Wells Cookie Monster, Cameron Murphy, Patrick Nielsen, Avery, Snack Reiner, Mike C, Mike Simple Name, Andrea, Kid Chaos, the pride and torment of the podcast, Energy, Varkenvale, Fogbread, Just a Ghost, Noki Station, Zane, Harlan Tallman, and welcome Curbside Weg. Thank you all so very much for supporting the show. Hope you enjoy this episode, and we'll see you next time. You've reached the end of this episode of Stories That Stick, hosted and produced by Chad Quandt. Hey, that's me. Associate produced by Jakylln Heidi Quandt. Edited by Cyrus Soliman. Theme music by Ed Scudder. Additional music by VitaZen. You can contact us at storiesthatstickpod@gmail.com. And please support the show and get access to bonus episodes and more at patreon.com/storiesthatstick.